Successful Minds with Patricia Barnowski-Schneider, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Successful Minds with Patricia Barnowski-Schneider is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Patricia Barnowski-Schneider.
Hello and welcome back to Successful Minds. I'm your host, Patty Baranowski-Schneider. Today I'm joined by Bryan Vielhauer, business leader in graphic arts. So welcome, Bryan. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, Patricia. Wow, always my favorite question, talking about myself. I'm just what I like to call a serial entrepreneur, a person who has a passion for customer service, has a passion for the graphic art industry. A lot of that stems from not only the graphic component, but the technological challenge that associates with it. I'm not the most creative member of our team by any stretch, but getting to work with the technology and the equipment that we need to achieve the objectives that we do day in and day out really speaks to my inner scientist, if you will. So I'm a native of Cincinnati, went to school in Ohio, went to Ohio State, which was a great experience for a person like me, and then returned back to Cincinnati and shortly thereafter found myself turning around a 30-year-old screen printing company at the time.
Wow, very nice. So now can you share a story about Decal Impressions, the transformation under your leadership? And what were some of the initial challenges you faced and how did you overcome them?
Well, as I mentioned, it was a turnaround. The company was founded in the late 60s, and I arrived in October of 2001. And the day after I acquired the company from the previous owners, the most expensive piece of equipment I'd purchased from them died the next day, and it was kind of the linchpin of our production process at the time. And I was fairly young and used to picking up the phone and calling tech support and getting responses. And I picked up the phone, called tech support, and they said, "Hey, yeah, we'll be happy to have somebody come out there. It's going to be between $5,000 and $7,000 to have the on-site visit. That doesn't include any parts or hardware." And I was just stunned. Had no real concept of what I was getting myself into at that moment in business. And I said, "Okay, well, what are my options if I don't have the money?" And they said, "Hey, do you see that nice packet that we made you?" And I said, "Yeah." They said, "Do you see the back where it says wiring diagram?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Learn to read it."
Wow.
And it was a pretty strong smack, but I pulled out the wiring diagram and started learning to read a wiring diagram. And within about an hour and a half, was able to follow the diagram, understand what the problem was, and work with a couple friends who were a little more savvy than I, but to kind of affirm my conclusions. And lo and behold, I was able to get our machine back up and running by the end of the business day, and learned a phenomenally valuable lesson about how it really, when you're an entrepreneur, when you're in business, when you're in leadership, sometimes the buck stops with you and you have to stop and figure out the problem. And in that instance, it was a great learning experience because I had no real knowledge that prepared me for that moment other than a desire to succeed and a can-do attitude. And I realized that that was an option. I could have come up with the money, I suppose, but in reality, the company needed the cash flow to stay in the business. And if I could fix it for a couple hours of my time, that was a great investment in myself and the business. So, a lot of lessons were taken from that very, very terrifying day 22 years ago.
Yeah, somebody else was saying that when you start a business, whatever budget you think you're going to have, you should triple it, or if best case scenario, double it, because it is true. You have no idea. Like when I started my business, everything was going great. And then all of a sudden I got sued by somebody else, which was ridiculous lawsuit. It was like unfair competition, which wound up getting thrown out because it made no sense, but it was more or less to rattle me. It caused me stress anxiety. I'm brand new. It's stress anxiety, legal fees just for nothing. But I would have never had that issue if I was an employee someplace. But when you start your own, just expect the unexpected. It's a good reality check.
That is, truer words have never been spoken.
Now, how do you maintain a forward-thinking approach in a fast-evolving industry? And what role does innovation play in your business strategy?
Ooh, that's a mouthful. You hit them hard and fast. Well, our industry, and it's kind of a whole career so far for me. When I joined this industry, we were in the driver's seat in virtually every way. We told people what they needed. They were amazed that we could deliver it, and there wasn't a lot of back and forth. When I first started, the personal computer really wasn't sitting on everybody's desk, and it just wasn't what it is today by any stretch. And you factor in what the customer can produce today in terms of their own artwork, what the machines and the technology can produce in terms of output is just night and day, and it changes so quickly. The speed at which the manufacturers are involving with printhead technology, with ink technology, with media technology. It basically, from a very early stage in this industry, I realized that we were going to be involved in change regularly because software impacts it, hardware impacts it, the ability of the other industry to kind of merge into ours. So for us, innovation was kind of key to survival. As the quality of the output product improved, we had to be there. And we often called it the bleeding edge of technology as opposed to the cutting edge of technology, because a lot of times when we were right there on the front edge, on the cutting edge of technology, we were bleeding. The people that were selling the equipment often didn't know very much about what they were selling. The large companies that were involved believed what they believed and what they were telling folks, but the reality is without the right foundation of knowledge about computers, about color, about output, it was to get the maximum out of the equipment. You really had to put a lot in as an individual to get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly wouldn't know half of what's involved in it. I think most companies don't. It's like they want when they want it, and that's it. Just make it happen. But there's a lot of like an octopus. There's so many different legs and angles that get involved in it, and people don't realize that. So, and like you said, the people selling it don't even know. So,
well, people often say, "Don't you just hit print?" And it's such a great question because, yes, at some point in the process, there will be somebody who will hit print, but that is typically the last stage of the project, not anywhere near the beginning. And if you don't take the time and care at the beginning before you hit print, then all you're doing is hitting print and producing something that's just not great.
Right.
And so getting folks to understand the difference between our company and our competitors is that we don't just hit print.
Mm-hmm.
We actually do the opposite. We evaluate and make sure that it's going to be something that we can put our reputation and our brand behind when we produce it for you.
Right. Yeah, having somebody who has that skill, and also you need that person on the outside, because an inside person doesn't, whatever message they think is going to, really prosper. You on the outside, you're dealing with the community all the time. You could say it's a great story, but here's what I would suggest. So some people, like you say, just do this is what you want. Okay, fine, do, but you're not putting that heart and soul into it, And like you say, your reputation's on the line, so you put in that extra work. Nice. Now, balancing intense work commitments with personal passions is a challenge that many face. So, how do you manage this balance, and what advice do you give to others striving for the same?
Well, I'm a little bit of a special case in that respect. Part of it is since I have so much joy and love of what I do, a lot of my passions adjacent are work related. I have some passion as it relates to flying aircraft. I love piloting planes. I loved the pursuit of my pilot's license. That was really a win-win for my business career, because the way they teach you to think as a pilot is also a great way if you're an innovator, if you're working in business, if you're in management, if you're working with equipment. All of the things that I kind of learned as a good course in piloting really all reflected back on my business. So I've just been really fortunate in the respect that almost everything that I do, I find some way to further myself personally and professionally, because I'm kind of linked to it. My work in my family is my passion. My family works within our business. There's a lot to be said about making that nest or that home that allows you to have all of those things intersected. And it's just the main key is to be looking out for mental exhaustion, physical exhaustion. We all have limits. Those limits change based on the pressures of the business or of life. But if you really go into it with a attitude of not work, but enjoyment and achievement and some personal, you invest a little yourself into it. I find that really balances so many things out.
Mhm. It's funny because I have that same mentality. Like I love what I do. I love like with marketing, being creative, coming up with various ideas. And I'm the same way where I'm like, I always say every client success is my success because I have to put my name on that. So if you fail, then I failed. Where so many other people have the attitude, it's just a job. They put in the bare minimum because they just don't care. They want a paycheck. And it's like it few and far between to find people really passionate about what they do. And that's actually awesome that you are. And I didn't realize that the pilot it intertwined. So that's actually really cool.
It was kind of an aha moment, if you will, for me. It was, wow, this, if you have a problem in an aircraft, how you diagnose that problem, you have to do that quickly. You have to do that with a certain safety mindset, because you could make a change to fix a problem that makes it worse, or vice versa. And it was so applicable to diagnosing problems with printers or computers or other interfaces that we use where it should be working, but it's not. What are some things that we can use to troubleshoot? What are some types of thinking? And a lot of times the study of thinking is something that's overlooked. I think sometimes, creating a hypothesis, creating a process by which you're going to evaluate what actions you take can affect the challenge you're trying to solve is so important. And the intellectual stimulation of that is something that I think folks sometimes throw in the towel too quickly. The problem is the problem, and some folks run to the problem, some folks run away from the problem. And if you have the right person and the right mindset working the problem, you can often solve it very quickly.
It's crazy because of the world we live in. Everybody they want it now, fix it. If not, make a phone call. So like nobody wants to put in the effort. I always say we're in a lazy world right now, but it's good that you're not. Now, this is interesting. You're involved in restoring vintage cars and working towards a pilot's license, which you mentioned. So how have these personal passions influenced your approach to business and leadership? You touched a little bit about the pilot's license, but tell us.
And the cars are very similar in that respect. I mean, when you're working on something where the technology is very old, you have a lot of resources, but there's a lot of touch, a lot of, what's the word? It's kind of like making a watch. It works, it can be made to be fixed, but there's nuances that a person who spent 20 or 30 years working in that craft really understood, where as a novice, I not only have to do the physical repair, but then the nuance is a training process to learn the differences in little areas. So for me, it's the challenge. It's the keeping something that once was considered cutting edge is now considered old, which I think is kind of enjoyable for me, because I do like taking out the classic automobiles, and it's always interesting to see. You can drive by a group of 15 or 20 people and watching the way the people in a group will respond. And it's always fascinating because it's never tied to one gender, to one age. There's nothing more fascinating to me than watching a younger person in a group of older people, and you just watch their head and you can see it on their face. They have no idea what they're looking at, but you can see in their eyes the inquisitive nature that experience has created. And I think that just is worth the pain, worth the bleeding knuckles, worth the occasional tow truck experience when one of your repair projects didn't last as long as you thought, and things like that. But it teaches you to be humble. You're sure you've got it figured out, and you put everything back together, and you turn the key, and a fluid that you don't want leaking is leaking out of it. You go from thrilled to devastated, just essentially starting over on the project with a new goal. So definitely an exciting thing to do, but it just keeps you on your toes. You have to be able to solve problems, and nowadays with some things becoming more and more difficult to get, sometimes you have to make your own things. So you have this whole, it creates an ecosystem, and then you wind up meeting people within that group. Um, some of them are, you know, many years older than you that have a lot of wisdom to share. You get to meet your occasional hoarder who's been building all those parts for all those years, and say, yes, I thank you for doing that. You're right. There is one guy left that needs it.
It's funny because that's my husband totally. He watches all of those vintage shows and, and they rebuilds and all that stuff. And he knows every single part. He loves all that. And I think the same thing, like, wow, it's almost like they have a junkyard in their backyard, but obviously all that stuff is needed. They'd be your best friend.
That's exactly right.
That's how those community service is a significant aspect of your life. So can you discuss the importance of giving back and how businesses can play a role in supporting their communities?
Absolutely. I'm a Rotarian, which the Rotary Club has been around for 120 years thereabouts. I found just a great cross section of my community in our club. My industry enables me to support their mission very much. So by being in the marketing, the communication, the signage and graphics business, we're able to support our various endeavors by having really top shelf graphics and signage. And as one of our philanthropic outlets, our company subsidizes or provides a great deal of that product. And making an impact for those that are less fortunate, that have challenges, it really can keep you, I think, in line in a certain respect. One of the local club here in Cincinnati, we founded a school for handicapped kids that were afflicted with polio, because 100 years ago, if you had polio and you were handicapped, you just didn't get to go to school. So they created a school for that, and that school is still run by the Cincinnati Public Schools, and our club still supports that school within that system. And when we do some holiday things, and when you show up there to help these kids, and you realize that them just getting to the moment in their day where they're meeting you to get a Christmas gift, to have a piece of cake, was so phenomenally difficult. But their parents, what they had to go through just to get them up out of bed into their wheelchair, it makes you quickly realize that on my worst day, I've still had the greatest day in the world. Mm-hmm. And by recognizing and continuing to keep yourself connected to the fact that, yes, there are days people don't show up to work. There are days machines don't work. There are days customers don't send you the art when you request. There's days you may be struggling to meet a deadline a customer's requested. In the very, very grand scheme of things, there are so many who have so many more challenges that smile every day while they face them. The least I can do is face my challenges with a smile.
Oh, it's very well said. It is true. I mean, no matter how many times you think, oh my God, I've had the worst day ever, it is true. There's always someone out there having it 10 times worse. And sometimes it's easy to read about that or see it on a movie, but when you see it in real life, it's like it's a whole new perspective. And yeah, good for you though. So that helps. Facing business challenges is inevitable. So can you share a particularly difficult moment or decision in your career and how you navigated it?
So I have a pretty good one here, I think. So when I took over this company, the company was located in an area of Cincinnati that was going through significant struggles at the time. It was called Over the Rhine, and it was a really historically relevant community that had just really fallen on tough times, the socioeconomic challenges of a city. Our company got very involved in that at the very early time. We were trying to kind of rebuild our company. They were trying to rebuild the neighborhood. And, we're putting a lot of our blood, sweat, and tears into that. And a few years down the line, things were slowly but surely making improvements, but, it was not great. And I came to work bright and early one morning and came around the corner. And when I came around the corner to our building, the first thing I noticed in the street was just glass everywhere, and then wood. And I thought, man, what in the world what has happened here? And I, stopped, looked and realized that all the glass, all the wood was all the windows out of my building. They were all laying in the street. The building was open to the outside, and it was just horrifying. I mean, there literally no words to describe that moment. There you had just a total huge amount of agitation and feeling, and at that moment it was a kind of a, okay, what are we doing here? You spent all this time trying to work and help the community. You're trying to save your business. It's obviously a tough neighborhood. There's a lot of getting customers to come here is challenging. It was the moment where I actually debated an about face on my plan and just said, forget it. At the time we were debating buying the building, but we were also considering moving. And it was like, you know what? It's time to move. It's time to get out of here. And had I gone with what I think would have been a negative response to that incident, it would have changed our future dramatically. And I think I'm very comfortable to say negatively, because biting down, accepting that it was just bad luck. It wasn't anything that doesn't happen to other people. Coming up with a solution, fixing it, getting it cleaned up and then buckling down and staying the course was the right move. But in the moment, the idea of abandoning ship was very real.
Yeah. I mean, that is, especially you put blood, sweat, and tears into something and just in a blink of an eye, it's almost destroyed. It does, it is hard, especially now you realize, okay, the finances is going to be involved to fix it. It's rough, but good thing for you didn't.
We were very lucky to stay the course, but it was, it just, the unknown is the challenge that you face. Hopefully not every day, but in a lot of cases every day.
Yeah. And tell us, the print service industry has seen considerable changes, especially with the digital transformation. So how has Decal Impressions adapted to these changes while staying true to its core values?
I think really, since our core values really revolve around service and being in a digital world, we're still a service organization. If you need to find us, you can call us. A human answers the phone, directs your call. And that is so critically important, because we often do laugh here because you can find us, the first thing people do is complain about our competitors to us. And it's like, hold the phone. You chose to go with the internet. It didn't work out. Now we're going to help you out, but you can't beat us for what the internet didn't deliver.
Yeah.
So we have really embraced the change by taking our services online, creating online portals, online stores for our customers, and adding technology to meet so many of their needs so that we are a one-stop shop for any of our customers. They don't need to keep multiple vendors because we can cover such a wide breadth of products and services. So I think service is what you need in any changing world. But fundamentally, we applying that mindset to all the things that we touch, whether it's building our websites for our customers, whether it's helping them with social media or marketing or getting the right files they need for other parties that they're working with. Just being there and providing a humble service to our customers transcends the technological changes that we all go through, because we're all still looking for help and guidance and support, and being there and being able to be trusted by our customers is just such an amazing thing.
Right. I mean, it is true because, I know everything now is with AI and these bots and all the customer service, I should say all majority of customer services online. You're not even dealing with real people, and there is no compassion. There's no feeling. So they're going to just point blank textbook style direct you what you need to do, but that doesn't mean that that's what you should do. You need that person to touch. And I'd say I haven't found many out there that are giving that. So, I mean, it's tricky because you can run, but you can't hide. But at the same token, it is bringing you valuable and loyal customers too. Good stuff. Now tell us, as a leader, how do you foster a culture of innovation and encourage your team to bring forward new ideas?
My best statement there is to reward those that do. There's a little bit to be said about having I always played sports as a younger person. I was not particularly gifted at any great sport that I played, but what I did do was, buckle down and do whatever was asked. And competition always kind of incited me a little bit. I loved winning, whether it was on the football field or the tennis court, or in shot put or discus, something like that. But to me, we encourage people to be challenging. We preach that, ask the why. Why are we doing this? Why is it being done this way? And when someone really steps up to the plate and puts themselves out there, even if it isn't going to be an earth-shattering change, we try to highlight that. We try to acknowledge that. We try to show other leaders in the company taking that path. We have folks that are personally improving themselves through added courses, added knowledge that our industry provides. So that the key is showing folks that it's better to be full contact in your process and in your thinking, than to just do what you're told. And that's tough, because some folks just, the big key for that is, if someone is not going to be a leader or an innovator, forcing them to be can be time lost. If it's not for them, it's not for them, because it's like my dear grandfather once told me, well, the world needs ditch diggers too. And if you're going to get grades like that, you best get a shovel and learn how to use it. So, there's no shame in being the person that digs the ditch, and there's no shame in the person that says, we could dig this ditch a little easier if we use this shovel instead of that shovel.
Right.
So I try to just reward thinking and creativity and a person who's willing to put themselves out there.
Yeah. No, I love that. The approach is awesome. And so many people, like you say, don't normally follow that. But I always it seems like businesses are evolving a little bit. And I love companies where maybe they have a monthly meeting where everybody voices their opinion. And I love the asking why, because I'm always a why on everything. And maybe if I said, okay, well, you're doing that, but I would do it this way. Either you're going to say, well, that's actually a good idea, I didn't think of it. Or you'll tell me, I get what you're saying, but here's why we won't. And now I've learned something, and together you grow, because at the end of the day, you all have the same goal. You want the business to succeed because that helps you. And it's, I think it's, especially the old school business, it takes them a little while to get over that. All right, I have to let go of the reins a little bit and let people grow. But I think we're slowly getting there, but not as fast as they should. So good job on your end.
Thank you.
Now, reflecting on your journey, what would you say is the key to achieving both professional success and personal fulfillment?
Have a big key ring and keep trying it until you find the one that unlocks it. Oh, for me, that's probably the most challenging question, because I always knew at a very early age that I would be in business. That, I never really thought of myself as a leader. I just kind of percolated to leadership positions through my actions. So for me, a lot of what I do is just walking the walk that I've always walked. And I think not taking yourself too seriously is really, really important. Being humble is a critical component to success in my mind. I've watched so many folks, peers, want to be celebrities as opposed to wanting to be good at what they did before they were a celebrity, which I've always kind of found a little bit amusing, if you will. I'd rather be known as the person who gets it done, but nobody knows his name. So I think the key is if you love what you do, if you love who you do it for, and you do it with the thought that, you could be doing it for your own grandmother, or somebody's doing it for your grandmother, that type of thing. It makes that process so much easier and rewarding. And it brings it all together. And, I'm fortunate. I have I've had a great group of people, in my youth, share a lot of knowledge at a very early age. I was just in the right time at the right place for all of these different grandparents and aunts and uncles to kind of pour knowledge into me. And I was lucky enough to listen to some of it. And, I think one of the gifts that I have about all of it is that I was raised by Depression era people, which is something that I think today is I look back on it, I could never understand why my grandparents and aunts and uncles had so much food in their basement. Like they had a grocery store in their basement. I used to just mull over that. And as I got older and they would explain things, it's like, wow, they have that food there because they're afraid there might not be food in the grocery store. And being able to connect with that concept of scarcity, even though I didn't have to live with it, helped me in my future by not overcompensating for the abundance, I guess.
Right. No, that's actually, it's funny because I grew up in the same era, and my mom to this day is still like that. Her garage is almost like a supermarket in there, but it is true. And nowadays it's, like, even when you say, you have family that was instilling knowledge and everything, and we were fortunate to have that. And now everybody's on the phone. So nobody's talking. It's like, you can have, like, I love when I see these pictures of everybody sitting at a dinner table and everybody's on their phone. Like, there's no communication. No one's instilling anything. And they just believe it's on the internet, which is 50-50. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes it's all garbage. But, I'm hoping that, the next generations, they'll be good, I'm sure, in their own way, but they're not going to do it the way we did it.
That's for sure.
Yeah, technology will help them along the way, but, hope they don't lose the compassion through it also. So now, looking towards the future, what are your aspirations for Decal Impressions, and how do you plan to continue contributing to the community and pursuing your passions?
Well, it's always, going forward and contributing to the community is just, it's ingrained in our DNA. We have a great group of people that we've built over the years with different interests, different passions, which keeps us diversified on the field. Artists, musicians, sculptors, creatives of all types. And that keeps us kind of alive and well in terms of touching so many different things. People feeling like they can come in and say, hey, I'd like to support this cause. Our group getting together and saying, hey, we have bandwidth to do that. We'll support it. It's really, for us, our future is all about people. Having people who are of similar mindset, similar work ethic, willing to put a little bit of passion in themselves into their daily activities, that will keep our future bright. Continuing to be on the bleeding edge of technology, continuing to be willing to invest in our industry, willing to educate our folks by having retreats, by having trips to trade shows, and just continuing to provide things that are harder to find elsewhere. We made some decisions early. We pay 100% of our team members' health benefits, so they don't have to contribute anything to their health insurance plan, including the ancillary services. So making it so they see there's an immediate value that the leadership puts on the team member here by investing in their health and their well-being, adequate time off. These are things that really push the envelope forward to creating an environment that keeps folks wanting to invest not only in the company but in their community as well.
Right. It's good because it's, again, so many companies, you're just an employee. They don't even know your name. You're just there, your number and a paycheck, and that's it. But having a company where you feel valued because they obviously believe in you, they're willing to, take care of you because they believe in you, makes me want to do an even better job because now I feel appreciated, which is, again, few and far between. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Now, anything else you want to add or talk about that we didn't cover?
Oh, I could talk all day, but opening day is coming up. Baseball in Cincinnati, always very, very, very exciting time. Another great way where we get to support our community. The Findlay Market here in Cincinnati has been hosting an opening day parade for over 100 years.
Wow.
And we're involved in that parade. We make signage for other floats. We have our own float. So that's an exciting bit of what we do. And I encourage other entrepreneurs, other business leaders to continue to focus on the people. We can all walk around and say how the world's going to hell in a handbasket. But if we really want to make an impact, what we need to do is look at why that is and try everything we can to make a change that's going to make folks not feel that way.
Amen to that. Well, thank you again for being on the show. Again, that was Bryan Vielhauer. Thanks again for listening to Successful Minds with Patty B. Never miss an episode by subscribing. So thank you so much again. You have a great story.
Thank you, Patty. It's been fantastic to be with you today.
Likewise.
Thank you for listening to Successful Minds with your host, Patricia Barnowski-Schneider. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.